turn here, and you don't need to raise your hand. You're good.
The days of creation.
The days of creation. And part of that was how powerful God is, that He was able to create everything in such a loving way that we are able to live and be here and enjoy ourselves. Today, if you guys are paying attention to the memory verse, we are talking about a very, I'm going to say for right now, exciting situation that happened in the Bible. But before that, can I ask you guys what month it is? Who knows what month it is?
It's October. October.
Correct. And when you think about October, what is the day that most people think about? Halloween. Do you guys know what Halloween is known for?
Costumes, jack-o'-lanterns, and candy.
Costumes, jack-o'-lanterns, candy.
Costumes, scares, candy.
Costumes, scares, candy. A lot of candy. I'm sure that's what you guys are thinking about right now if you guys go out at the end of the month. But it's about scary stuff. A lot of people during Halloween, they'll go out and see scary movies. Of course, if you do go trick-or-treating, you say trick or treat and try to scare people as you go door to door. Today's story, as much as it is exciting, it's also a very scary story, at least for those who were there. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that while we're here, it's super duper windy. And also that it's super duper cold. Now, most of the time, if you asked me, oh, do you like the wind? I would say yes, of course. If you ask me, oh, do you like the cold? I would say, yeah, of course I do love the cold. In fact, even if you ask me if I like the rain, I'll tell you, of course, I love the rain. Even when I was in the Philippines, it would rain basically half of the days I was there. And even then, I wouldn't get tired of the rain. But if you ask the people who were there, they might have a different answer. But there comes a line when these things that we enjoy begin to become something that we are afraid of. What are some of the things that we are afraid of? I think I heard you. I don't think you forgot. What did you say?
I forgot.
Okay.
Zombies.
Zombies? Afraid of zombies?
Why did you do that then?
Where's Dad? Where's clowns? I'm getting such a deja vu with that one.
People aren't afraid of the dark. They're afraid of not being alone in the dark.
They're afraid of not being alone in the dark? Clouds? Let me ask, why are you afraid of clouds?
Because of it.
Yeah, the red nose, I don't trust it.
Red nose, you don't trust it?
Going bye-bye.
Going bye-bye?
Tall roller coasters.
All roller coasters. Okay, now that's an interesting one. Some people.
Really long, really boring, but high stakes meetings.
really does sound very scary. One more. One more. Now,
Gered.
there are many things that we are afraid of. Sometimes because we don't know what will happen. Sometimes it's because it's a little bit freaky, like a clown. And most of the time, it's because we're afraid something might bring us into danger. Something might happen to either us, or maybe something or someone that we care about. Now, if something bad happens to them, if they're put into danger, or if they can possibly get hurt, we begin to have fear in our hearts. Today's story is one about Jesus near the beginning, somewhat close to the beginning of his ministry. And it's after he's finished a lot of preaching. He's preached many parables to many people, and he gets on a boat. And for reference, how many of you have been on a boat before? Raise hands. A good amount of you, a good amount of you. How many of you have been in a fishing boat before? Can I ask you guys how big those fishing boats are? 30 feet? You know what? That's a pretty good size compared to the ones that Jesus would have been in. For your guys' reference, if you guys don't know how big the boat Jesus and the disciples got into, if you look at maybe one of those vans, it's around one of those vans, but twice as long. If you look at one of those vans over there. And I think it'd be around the same height as well, actually. But remember, these are boats. And where do boats go? The ocean, the water. So even though the boat might be as tall as that van, half of it is underneath the water. So, if you've ever been on a boat before, how many of you get seasick? Airplane sick? It's because the boat's rocking so much as you're going through the water that your body begins to react. During this time, although the disciples were fishermen, many of them were, they get into this boat and the winds begin to blow extremely hard. The waves start to become choppy and they're pushing you guys around. It'd be like if you guys are in one of these chairs, I started shaking you. Like, ah! Except it was lots of fun. Well, maybe it could be fun. Oh, thank you. But instead of just falling off of that chair, you'd fall into the water, into the Sea of Galilee. And even though these fishermen knew how to deal with storms, they were afraid for their lives. Haley brought up earlier roller coasters. Roller coasters for many of us are very scary things. Loop-de-loop? Here's the thing. With a roller coaster, you know for sure, well, okay, not 100% for sure, but you have a good idea by watching everyone that's going on that they're all getting on, but they're all going off safely. Many of these fishermen have gone into boats, have gone through storms, but they had a good idea that they were going to get out of it fine. This was such a situation that the roller coaster seemed a little bit weird. It seemed like if they got onto it that they might not get off very safely. And funnily enough, with them, Jesus is asleep. How many of you are able to sleep inside your cars? For maybe if you guys were driving over here, that's actually a good amount of you. When I was your age, I could not sleep in cars. I could not. unless it was an extremely long ride or if it was extremely late at night. I only remember a few when I was your guys' age. I was able to sleep in a car. It's so loud. There's so many bumps. You're sitting up. I'm surprised you guys are able to do it. But could you guys imagine sleeping on a rickety-rockety boat? Or maybe even like this, could you guys sleep on a roller coaster? Nah, could you? Huh? The little kid ones? If it was really, really long? Okay. Well, some of you are pretty amazing for being able to sleep in those situations. But Jesus was asleep during this storm. And while all these disciples were afraid for their lives, like, why isn't he doing anything? Why isn't he helping out? Water is getting inside of our boat. Why doesn't he help us bucket it outside? And so they wake Jesus up. Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Then Jesus arose and rebuked the wind. Jesus gets up and he says to the wind, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Jesus spoke to the wind and he said, "Peace, be still." And then it stopped. Can you imagine that happening right now? Even in this situation, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it? If someone said, "Peace, be still," and all of a sudden, no more wind. Don't want it to be becoming even more cold than it is right now. And then the most important part of the story is he says, "But he said to them, 'Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? Why were you afraid for your lives? How come you didn't have faith in me? That Jesus, would save you, would keep you safe." For many different, if we're going back to roller coasters really quickly, for many roller coasters, for example, you know you're going to be safe by the end of it. Because there was someone who designed that roller coaster in such a way that you could get on, have your exciting experience, and be able to get off just fine. Very similarly, although not exactly, life is much the same way. The Lord has put us here. He has given us this entire earth, this entire planet, and He has given us His Son. We have Jesus so that we know at the end of the day that if we believe in Him, we are saved. If we have faith in God, that we don't have to fear. We don't have to be afraid of what is to come. When I was in the Philippines, there was one thing I was pretty afraid of when it came to me having to do it. And it was starting my internship at a church in the Philippines. There are a lot of things I was afraid of, but one of the things I was most worried about was going to the church every Sabbath. How many of you have been to the Philippines before? You? Not many of you, not many of you? There are these things called, so you know how here we have buses? You get on your bus, you go to the right place. In the Philippines, they have buses too, but there aren't that many of them. So instead, they use what they call jeepneys. Jeepneys are these really big cars where everyone gets on and they'll drive from one place to the other, and it will be super crowded. You'll have upwards of, trying to think from experience, sometimes you'll have definitely at times more than 30 people in a jeepney. Because in the Philippines, sometimes if you can't fit in the car, you'll hang off the back. There are bars on the back of the jeepney where you can stand, you hold onto the bar, and then you hold on until you get to your destination. Needless to say, I was trying to figure out, I had a partner with me, and his name was Mark. I called him Mark Jacobies, that's technically his first name. And there's another Mark in the class, so I called him Mark Jacob. And we were trying to figure out, he was my partner, we were going to the same church, and we were thinking, how do we get to our church every week? None of us have a car, we don't have a bike, so we're going to have to get there somehow. Immediately in my head, I thought, well, we could take a tricycle. The tricycle is a bike. There's a sidecar and there's a bike, and you pay them however much it costs to get to a place. And of course, the bike cost was around 500 pesos to get there. It was around $10, which isn't that much for us here, but in the Philippines, that's a lot of money. And I was thinking, maybe we could take that. I was thinking to myself, maybe I could just pay for Mark too. Because I really don't want to take the jeepney. That's what I was thinking to myself. Mark started making plans. He said, no, I know how to get there, it'll be fine. He said, I talked to someone, we take this jeepney to here, then we take this jeepney to here, then we take this jeepney here, and then we get to the church. And in my mind, I was like, I don't know, doesn't seem safe to me. I don't know, I'm kind of afraid of doing that. I don't really want to. I don't really have faith in him. And here's the thing, Mark is a really smart guy. If you can picture it in your head, he has glasses. He's super studious. You could tell he got good grades. And I was happy to have him as a partner too. It's like, he speaks extremely good English. If I need to have him translate from the God, I can do that. So I was happy to have him as a partner. But when it came to this jeepney thing, I was like, I'm not sure. But needless to say, when the day came, we met up at the school gate. We both got out. And commuting in the Philippines is its own thing. So, you wait. I won't go through all the tedious details. But needless to say, we were able to get to the church on time. It was a 45-minute commute there in the early morning. And although I was afraid of doing all these new things, being crowded in a car with a bunch of people I didn't know, you could tell I was a little bit, even for a good amount of time, I would hug my bag so tightly in that jeepney. And I was mostly afraid of what if I have to hang off the back of the jeepney to get to where we need to go? And one of those days did come, but thankfully, after a few stops, someone got out and I was able to get inside the car. But I should have trusted more in my friend Mark in the beginning. I should have had faith that since he was from the Philippines, he knew what to do and how to get there. Because let me ask you, did Mark not want me to get to my church? No, he was a part of the same assignment. He had love for me and love for the church enough that he would want to get there on time. It's the same thing with us and the Lord. Does the Lord love us? Of course he does. He has the best intentions for our lives. To do the most well we can in our lives. To be able to be on that glorious day with him in his heavenly kingdom. So as long as we have faith, even in those times where we might think to ourselves that we're afraid, something might happen, something dangerous might put us off track. We don't have to. As long as we have faith in the love of the Lord, believe in the Son, we have nothing to worry about. May the Lord bless the reading.